Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm gonna be reacting to a video called Are the Nordic countries just too superior? So maybe yes, I don't think it's that weird or offensive to say that. I think it's just a fact, not just pure as in like, oh, the people are better. No, it's just like the economies, I think, you know, it's an actual fact. They tend to be like better economically, and also I think like maybe quality of life in general. That doesn't mean that everyone's happier or whatever. It's just like, you know, if you put the statistics, I think like people tend to like live better in those countries. But I don't know, like Nordic countries, I think Scandinavia, right? So Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark, I want to say. But I don't know. So let's check it out and comment, like, and subscribe.
I often feel inferior sitting here in Australia, or even thinking about America, or say Serbia, when the Nordic countries are out here living rent-free at the top of the global food chain, straight up apex predators gobbling up every ranking like it's a smorgasbord, while the rest of us are still stuck in the tutorial level. Starting with a classic flex, the world's most livable cities, Vienna might take first place, but Copenhagen...
I have to say, I hate those indexes because it's like, again, I get it's like the statistics, like the science says this, but it's like, you can be like, I think it was what, Vienna, but maybe some people are like, I don't like this city. Like a lot of these cities and countries are just like about like vibes in general. So it's like, yes, I know that you're telling me like the actual science behind this all, but sometimes I think there's more to actually living in a city and enjoying living in a certain place that like the actual science. Again, it's just like vibes and whether or not you sort of like you like it, and again, it's just like the vibes that I like the city, like it fits, I feel right at home. So it's like, I hate those indexes. It's like, well, yeah, maybe, but that doesn't necessarily mean, like, doesn't mean anything.
Holds it down at number 2. And look, Melbourne, you're great with your hook turns and superhero stadiums, but the Danish have crop circle suburbs and canals, body confidence,
that looked like an alien film.
and bike school buses, and a mitten that could fit Michigan. Speaking of body confidence, did you know Finland has over 3 million saunas? And if you zoom in, you can literally see the sauna guardian, this elf named Sauna Tontu.
Okay, that was obviously they're not doing that in real life, but if I'm in a sauna alone and there's like a weird figurine, like if that's how it looks like, I'll be scared of the thing actually like coming to life and making something weird.
No mistäpä jutella?
Sauna culture isn't just relaxation, it's basically a personality trait. It's Finland, where sweating isn't a side effect, it's a lifestyle. Now, let's look at safety. Look at those tiny numbers in Norway, Iceland, and Finland. Meanwhile, other countries are out here treating gun regulations like optional DLC packs. Safety first is basically a Nordic mantra, except der ligger en hund begraven when you look at the Swedish numbers. Of course, not everything is rainbows and canal baller. Here's a map to remind you why staying indoors with your panakaka is always a good idea. But hey, don't compare Europe to the US. Louisiana, are you okay? Blink twice, Baton Rouge, if you need help. This map shows the relief of the...
Were those gun related like that? Because that was insane.
Nordic region in all its glory. Look at Norway standing proudly tall there while Sweden tries to get on its tippy toes to equal its bigger brother. This is the annual rainfall. Bergen doesn't lie. Vestlana is basically a waterfall that decided to be a province. If you're not sweating in a sauna, you're getting soaked outside. Arctic Finnmark though, basically a desert by Nordic standards, but shout out to the Sami parliament. While we look at rainfall, Finland is basically a giant bathtub. Throw in a duck and some bubbles and you've got the most Finnish Saturday ever. Meanwhile, in Sweden, every 5 years or so, someone steals all the snow. I wonder if they'll blame the migrants for this one too. Let's not ignore...
That's tripping me out because I thought like there was like much snow in Sweden. Apparently, I was wrong.
Ignore the billionaires. Iceland flexes with its incredible stats. Based on one guy, is being anti-billionaire still trendy? I'm asking for the billionaires. Meanwhile, the Nordics are barely...
I would say I don't really care about this because it's like, unless I'm the billionaire, I don't really care if there are a lot of billionaires living here because it's like, well, they're not sharing their wealth, so why would I care unless I'm like seeing the profits, the benefits of this, or if I'm one of them. So it's like, who cares? I guess I told you because it's like, oh, you could also like make it there. It's like, no, absolutely not. You know the amount of there's not a lot of billionaires in the world. It's like a very specific amount of people, and it's like you're not gonna be a millionaire or a billionaire just by living in those cities. So it's just a little bit misleading.
working. Norway averages 3.79 hours a day. The rest of their time is what? Probably spending frowning in tunnels?
What do they do
Some
with their
maps
day?
just scream, why does this even exist? Like this one, a completely random correlation between things you probably shouldn't put in the same sentence, but hey, Sweden's apparently very potent. Is that why everyone there is blonde? But Japan, why did the map maker put you down there? What is Greece up to? Here's a quirky one. Most Googled word definitions by country. Norway's obsession with ethics and Finland's search for sauna prove that even their dictionary habits.
Okay, so the Finnish, like, they have saunas basically all over the world, and they're still looking up saunas on Google. Like, there's one right next to you, I guarantee. Like, you don't need to walk very far. There's, like, saunas are everywhere, and they're still looking them up, like, on Google. That's why you have all of them.
But wholesome. Meanwhile, the rest of the world is just trying to spell Pegasus correctly. But I'm getting very sus about Greece now.
Pegasus is a hard word.
Can we please have some roads?
Roads?
Nay. Beautiful map though. And because of that
What?
stubborn Norwegian geography god, Norwegians must build tunnels. A few more tunnels and I think Oslo will be part of the lithosphere. I love
Why?
road
Which
maps
tunnels?
and planning trips, so here's a good one. It appears you can drive from Malmö in Sweden to Rome in Italy before you can even get to the arse end of Sweden. Ever wondered how Norway could be so wide yet so narrow? This map shows one of Norway's most mind-boggling geography facts. At its narrowest, it's just
I'm stuck in Italy, like driving from Sweden to Italy. Apparently, I know that they didn't drive there, but I know that, you know, the ancient people got there. That is like 20 hours. That seems like a shorter amount than I thought, actually. Like, I know that 20 hours driving, it's like you're not doing it like physically. You have to stop either at some point, several points actually. But I thought it was like this fewer than I thought, actually. I thought it was going to be like 30 hours.
8.3 kilometers wide. I've literally been chased by esches further than that. This one's truly fascinating. Australia is closer to mainland Norway's north point than Norway's southern point, and to drive from Norway's southerly point to northerly point is an eye-watering 38 hours, or T as it says here. But bear and wolf attack?
How on earth is it possible that the Sweden-Italy thing, it was Italy, right? Like, it's 24 hours, 23 hours, and this is 35. Getting like 34 hours, 35 hours just to get from like one end to the country to the other, that's insane to me, because that's like a real long time. I'm not comparing it to the US because the US is huge, or Canada, but like a lot of places, I know from end to end, like it shouldn't take that long. Maybe like 20 hours, 24. I know, I guess obviously it depends on the country, but seeing it like this is like, it's bigger than I thought.
This is absolutely unhinged information here. The wolves seem strategic. They're like, first eliminate the kid, then the sheep are ours. I shouldn't laugh, but it's like a Nordic Game of Thrones subplot. I'm literally sobbing. The world is so cruel. And speaking of existential dread, check out this map. The Nordics
Metal
literally
bands.
are the home to metal music. I guess I know what will be on my...
They're really hardcore over there, because the thing is like it's looking very black and very gray, and the rest of Europe is just looking like light gray. So apparently they do like their metal in Scandinavia. Wonder why? Is it the cold? Probably it's the cold. They're isolated, they're cold, they must be like very into like harsh metal.
Spotify playlist as I drive from Narvik to Tampere. And no, this is not wildfires in Scandinavia.
Okay.
This is the population hotspots. And if you really want to
one
feel
up north.
inferior about your own government, check out the state of democracy in the Nordics. Just look at it, mind-blowing. And here is where the Nordics shine. Young adults scream for independence. Contrast this with Southern Europe, where your 40-year-old hairy son still expects his mandatory goodnight kiss. I know which one I would rather be. And where do all these young adults live? Well, islands. There is over 400,000 of them in the Nordics. Finland is more island than land. And actually, it's not
Surprised about Canada, quite high.
island. Swedes are all moving to the United States, hugging the Canadian border, trying to cuddle up to all that wokeness and Tim Hortons
Why would
coffee.
they want that?
Scandinavian women are waiting longer to have kids, which averages around 30. Maybe it's that strong work-life balance, or just enjoying those fika breaks a little too much.
I think in general, I think people are having like fewer kids in general, and women are having kids like later on in life, because I think, you know, that's like they have more things to do. It's not like the old, I don't know, 1940s, 1950s with just women didn't really have anything to do. So it's like they're having kids. Not that obviously people these days have like kids, you know, people that have their kids young. So like, oh, they're not doing anything with their lives. But I think it's just more common back in those days, because people were just like, again, they didn't really had like a lot of options. These days, because there's like so much options, then a lot of people just choose to have kids like later on in life.
Come and join our Swedish fika.
Is this a real song?
The Nordics dominate the least corrupt rankings. Finland, Norway, and Sweden are basically corruption-free zones, while the saying goes, no bribes,
Insane.
just vibes. Apparently, Scandinavians are embracing climate change, so they don't need to travel to Spain anymore. But check this out, 30 degrees in
Embracing climate change, and to be the opposite of like, we're not embracing it, we're fighting against it.
Iceland is wild, more like Hotland. Ugh. And we can't forget stereotypes to try feel good about ourselves. This just proves that Norway has more layers than a lurk. But this impossible dialect in the Telemark Valley, let's hear some of it. Why is it so impossible? And here is what the Finnish people think of their neighbours. I love this. Denmark, the land of nothing. Just iconic. So, to sum up.
Funny how they're like the land of nothing. I can say that about the whole Scandinavia and not just Denmark, because it's like, it looks quite empty. I think it was Sweden, the one that they showed earlier on. And it was like, it was nothing up north, like no one lives there. So it's like, I can say the same about a lot of Nordic countries and basically all Scandinavia.
Well, Nordics, we get it. You're cool, you're rich, you're ethical, but if you really...
Yeah, it's like a little bit of like, if we're getting into it, like they're all not interchangeable, because obviously each one of them has their own culture and each country is different. But they do have a lot of similarities, and I think if you don't really know much about like the world and countries in general, you're just thinking, wow, Scandinavia, they're like a whole thing and they're just like the same and similar. It's like, well, no, not similar, not the same, but they are similar.
Really want to flex? How about uniting into one country, one flag, one nation? Call it the United States.
Me always say I don't know anything about this, but I think that looks like a great idea. I know that at some point in history, I'm pretty sure they were united. Probably they wouldn't go back to that, because like we've already been there and it was bad. I don't know the reasons, but I think maybe they should try that again. It's too late probably these days. It's like, no, we want our own independence, and you know, we all have our own very sense of like cultural. We're Finnish, we're not Swedish, and there's like a lot for them. It's probably like very different. They're very different from another, so it is like, yes, it's for the rest of the world, they're like one thing. But in between them, they're like, no, how dare you say that I'm Swedish if I'm like Danish.
Of Higa.
Are those like the blueberries?
Oops. Ay.
Okay, that was funny. Oh my god, and it's like, it's an actual, okay, I want to try that thing. I don't know what it is. It was a beer or something. It looked good. Very funny. The commercial was like, Opa, I think it wasn't Opa, it was like Opi or something of the sort, and it was like, oh, that sounds like the mid, well, it's usually like, yes, or the Midwestern say, like, I know there's a lot of like Scandinavian immigrants over there, probably not these days, but like historically, and they do say Opi a lot, so it's like, oh, that's where it comes from, like, you know, the phrase of like, oh, Opi. Well, I don't know, I can't replicate it, but it is sort of like that, and I'm wondering if it comes from actual like a Swedish word that actually means something, or is this like an actual expression, because I've heard it of just like, it's just an expression. It's kind of a joke. They sort of like do that, like Opi. I don't know, it's really funny, but yes, I do think if they, you know, just putting it out there, the whole concept, this was a very funny video, but just speaking about like very seriously, I stand on what I said. Yes, you know, it's funny that he was like, they're making me feel like inferior just because they're like superior in any way. It's just like, well, technically a little bit, yes, you know, if you look at the rest of the world in comparison, you can feel a little bit of like, oh great, so like there's no hope for me because they're already perfect. But again, it's like, those are the numbers. And I think, again, it's like, it's obviously, those are like, it's numbers and it's like a real science behind this all. But I think that in reality, again, when you're like choosing to live in a country, not that obviously putting aside the whole bureaucracy, whether or not it's feasible for you to actually live there, it's just going for like, oh, I'm just looking at countries that I would like to live in. It's just like, okay, the numbers definitely like there are a big part of it. Probably if you wouldn't, you wouldn't move around to, I don't know, like some place of like, no, like the economical opportunities are probably like not that good. And I completely understand that. But I think at the end of the day, I think, again, it's more about like the vibes that a certain country or a certain city gives you. And I can't explain it. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just vibes, because it's just sort of like, I don't know, I feel good in this. I feel like I would fit right in. Because I think, the people, again, just like the people, and it's not necessarily that people are like nice to you or do you feel, I would feel very welcomed. Although so for some people, that might be a part of it. But I think it's just a fact of like you actually feeling like you fit in a certain place. And it's like, wow, I feel, just like walking around this city and I feel so happy just by walking here. So, I like living here, as in like I feel happy just by being in this actual place in time. So it is a bit of a little bit of that. And I think, again, it's not just like the numbers and the math and the actual like, the actual study, because I think it's like a lot of things are not quantifiable. Like a lot of these things are just by you, just like, yes, I like it, or maybe I don't like it. I can guarantee that there are some people that have moved to Scandinavian countries. I don't know, maybe you're thinking about this, but maybe, again, it's like, wow, incredible, like you're gonna have like a great economy or a good quality of life. Like a lot of the things that they were talking about is like, oh, so it's an incredible lifestyle. But maybe not just lifestyle. It's just like, again, the whole quality of life. But maybe the lifestyle that they lead, it's really not for you. So it's like, you know what? In paper, I should love this and I should be, the happiest that I've ever been in my life. But maybe when some people have moved there are like, I don't think I like this very much, because I don't really feel at home here. And that's completely valid, because again, it's like there are certain things, and I think a lot of like humans in general and human brains and human lives I have a very like component of variables that are just, they're not, again, you can't actually count on them. It's just like a thing of like, it's just a feeling that I have. And again, it's like, maybe you can feel, again, a little bit of like, well, why am I not happy here? I should be like the happiest. And it's like, not necessarily. And, I wouldn't blame you, because again, in paper, it looks perfect. But sadly, with humans, and again, in life, it's not just, it should work. But it's like, yeah, well, but humans and, brains are not an exact science, sadly. So it is like we haven't figured out like the secret behind this. So it is like I mean, yes, in paper it looks incredible. Everyone should move there. Obviously, not everyone can. Probably a lot of, like, there's like a lot of stuff that go into like moving to one of these places, and of course, each country must have like their own like immigration policies, and some people will qualify, others will not. So again, just putting aside the whole like, is it realistic for me to actually move there? Well, that's another story. But I'm talking more about like you actually wanting to pursue this. So I'm just wondering about this, because I bet that there's like a lot of people that even though it should work on paper, like it doesn't really work in reality. But of course, like they're great, and it's like, why? It's funny. I think would be of like someone moving there. They're moving to, I don't know, this person I think was Australian, and they were like, well, I moved there, and because it was like I crunched numbers, and it was like, this place should be incredible. I should be like the greatest. I should feel the greatest that I've ever felt in my whole life. And then it's like, no, I went back to Australia, because Australia was actually turned out to be that, even though it wasn't like, maybe I have like fewer things, or maybe less quality of life. On paper, like in my life, I just feel better, because it's like, I don't know, the weather, the people, I don't know, you just feel better at any other place. But I think it's really funny, and I would love to speak with someone that actually has experienced that. But putting that aside, I think the whole, and I made a joke about this, but I think, no, seriously, what have they tried like thinking about it, like, are there some political, movements that are going to like reunite Scandinavia and put like the Kingdom of Scandinavia? I don't know if that's a thing. Would love to know. I'm very curious about this, because I maybe I would think yes, maybe. I don't know. I can't be the only one that's like thinking of this, because it's like, yes, come on, if you guys wouldn't unite like their own for your own forces, which of course, like again in Scandinavia, wow, incredible. They can do a whole thing like the United Kingdom, which is like everyone sort of like keeps their own nationalities and their own cultural like ties, but they're part of like the kingdom, right? So it is like united, but not but separate at the same time. So I think they should do something like that. They should do a bit like that, and they should, yes, we're the kingdom of Scandinavia. And there's like Norway and Denmark and Sweden and Finland. And just as in the United Kingdom, you have like Wales, you have England, you have Northern Ireland. So it is sort of like maybe in Scotland, and each one of them remains, and they have their own like cultural things, and and of course there's like a lot of like political issues between them as well. Like you wouldn't call an Irish British, because they're going to be offended. So I think it would be the same thing. It's like you can be united, but at the same time being like separate. So I'm wondering if that's not, why is that not a thing? Maybe it is, and I'm unaware of this, but I would love to know if like in the actual country, like there are politicians that are like, hey guys, we should definitely do this, and maybe there's like they want to do this. There's campaigns, so there have been talks of this, because I think from an outsider's perspective, I think it would be good. I don't know how good for the rest of the world. Maybe they would be too powerful, and it's like, no, they would like sort of like he said of like, well, they would be like, they're playing on, the rest of the world is still like the tutorial, and they're like, no, we're already going pro. So maybe it would be like that, and they were like, no, it would be like, we have to like, they would be too powerful. So maybe that's the case, and maybe it wouldn't be good for the rest of the world. I don't know, but I think they're so good, because actually like that's the whole thing. It's like their corruption levels are so low as well, and they have like high levels of like, their democracy is great, that I don't think they would have used that power. So it's like, I don't even have that of like, oh no, they would be too powerful. It's like, no, look at them. I think I would trust them. I think I would definitely trust them to do what's right, and be like, yeah, sure, there's like, they don't have any corruption. They have like great levels of democracy. So I would trust them not to like abuse their own power. So yes, the Kingdom of Scandinavia would be like the most powerful, like the most powerful country, or yes, technically country in the world. Maybe they should do that in the future, or maybe at some point they will. I don't know, or maybe there's like other reasons that I'm unaware of, like that's not possible to do so these days. Although, again, maybe I think everything's possible. I don't know. But that was it for today, and I'll see you soon. Bye.